everyone, and welcome to this conversation presented by White House Custom Color. I'm Jed Taufer. Thanks for listening. You know, my wife Vicki and I have owned and operated our photography studio, V Gallery, for 20 years now. White House has been our lab for the last 16 of those years, and we could not be happier. White House is a family-run business, just like ours. If you haven't already, check them out at WHCC.com. And if you want to drop me a line, feel free to email me at jed@WHCC.com. Value is based on perception. We've heard it 1,000 times, and yet it's so true. So let's say you're on board with that. Let's say you concede that value is, in fact, based on perception. What then? What are some things you can do to really influence your client's perception of you and your business? Enter Tavis and Amy Guild. Tavis and Amy are powerhouse entrepreneurs from Yakima, Washington, and they incorporate some fantastic ways of interacting with their valued clients. In order to be profitable, building value is a must for them, so they've developed strategies revolving around 5 touch points they have with each client. Listen in as we discuss. I'm really intrigued. So I'm reading this, and I see all the topics, and I think that they're pretty relevant topics.
Okay.
And then you're like, well, we live in a smaller town, and we do our sessions for free. I get nervous when I hear that.
Me too.
As a photography studio owner, my wife is the face in the vast majority of it. But if, my name's on papers that the bank cares about,
yes,
and things of that nature, and so
right.
when I hear we do anything for free, just makes me a little freaked out.
I know, that's why I put it in there, because I was like, oh, it's a hot topic.
I'm triggered.
I know.
You triggered me. So, and then Tavis, you said free is a dirty word.
Well, okay, so
it's like a piece I want to pull out.
No, so here's of course you pulled that out.
It's such a dirty word.
Of course, it is it can be. So I have a vocabulary list in our studio of words you cannot use when interacting with clients, and really just culturally we try not to use them. So the obvious suspects of shoot,
I gotcha.
Enlarge.
Never thought of that.
I
never heard that one.
All
blow
that,
up,
sort of thing. Like anything that's would be derogatory.
So what are
But those are actually really common words for photographers.
Well, they are. But
is.
What are the explicit? You have alternatives, I'm assuming. So
well,
instead
absolutely.
Of shoot,
it's all about value building, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So a client, we're not going to shoot them and blow them up and hang them on the wall.
Are you going to capture them?
Yeah, we're going to create a portrait for them, and we're going to display it in their home.
We photograph them too.
And oftentimes, I even will, instead of referring to ourselves as photographers, oftentimes we'll refer to ourselves as portrait artists, because at the end of the day, air quotes, everyone's a photographer,
sure,
but not everyone's a portrait artist, and
right.
So with some clients that want that leveled up experience, that's the vocabulary they want.
You use image instead of picture.
Exactly.
I mean, we try to.
Yeah, exactly. Or
because
we use
you take a
portrait more than
picture
anything.
with your phone.
Portrait.
Yeah, we
portrait
use
even more than image, right?
Well, so long as there's a person, a portrait is usually the best fit.
That's the best word,
portraits,
right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's how do you have a bunch of employees at your studio?
Yeah.
We have 10 employees because we have a few other photographers that help us with weddings and stuff. We do like 60 to 70 weddings a year.
These words are posted for everybody to kind of adopt into their lexicon, so to speak.
Yes. Well, and the funny thing is so anytime I hear a word that's deviating away from a list, or that's on the list that they shouldn't say, I'll poke my head in, and they know. Sort of thing.
You just give them.
They know,
look.
but
you're like the dad that looks at his kids.
No. But so here's where it comes back. Is I am very far away from being perfect at that also.
Okay.
And so, oh boy, when they catch me,
it's over.
It's they poke their head in my office and they look at me and smile, and then I think for a second, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, you did it.
They got me.
Yeah. You broke your own cardinal sin.
They did. Yeah. So it goes both ways, but the thing is it's not a policing matter. everyone's on board with, hey, this is how we use value. I mean, if you were to talk to any high-end luxury company, just give them a call on the phone and pay attention to the vocabulary they use. It's incredibly intentional.
They're very trained.
Yes, they're trained, but they're intentional. Yeah.
Right, for that very reason, because of the value piece. Is that the whole value is based on perception type of mindset, like how it's perceived really affects the value of any product whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
And so that brings me back to free.
I know.
Because that seems to be a contradiction.
It is, and that word is on the list, and that's why I said it was
Don't
a dirty
worry, we
word.
say complimentary.
Yeah.
Complimentary. See, there
yeah.
we go.
So yeah, in real life, we provide a complimentary session for them.
Okay.
We do not say it's free.
Okay. But so tell me how that model works, though. Tell me how that piece works.
So we have tried lots of different models of pricing structures to get clients in the door. And last year, I kind of had this idea, like, why don't we just start kind of waiving the session fee just to get more of our target market in the door and offer complimentary sessions instead of doing the session fee. And so it's a big risk because we just started giving all these sessions away to what we perceived as qualified clients in our business. So we gave some away at the fair. We did like a small business Saturday giveaway contest, this and that. But, we're still in control of like who we're giving them to. So it's not just like throwing them out to anybody.
Right. You're not at a parade like throwing sessions out with candy.
Right.
Yes.
And we're in a small enough town. I mean, we kind of know who would be a good fit.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, we gave all those away. It was a gamble. Photographed all the family sessions, and they came back in. And we had last fall we had 100% rate of people that invested. We do in-person sales. So
100.
Yes.
All of them?
Yeah, nobody walked away with, because we offered the session and 5 digital images, printable update by 12.
For free?
Yeah.
With no commitment to buy anything else?
No,
Nothing at all.
but it only works for us because Tavis, I would consider as like a master salesman. So like we have a portrait planning meeting with them. So they come in, they see our studio, they know what we're about. We sell canvases and albums, and he walks them through the process. He goes to their home and sees where they're going to put the portrait, then the session, then the ordering meeting. So like we're like 5 meetings deep with these people. They trust us. We're friends. So I think at that point it would be almost awkward if they walked away with nothing.
There's
I
two things
get that.
there's two things that's happening there that she's describing. I mean, she just describes the experience, from that first meeting all the way through. But so here, when we bring up this particular topic, I always give a little warning tag. Mm-hmm. There's some things that have to be intact in order to do it. And
be successful.
I don't recommend this model for just anybody.
And so but it is something to keep in the back of your mind if you can check a couple boxes. So one of those is going to be your brand strength. And so we have very strong brand strength in our area, and we've worked hard on that. So we have a reputation.
Unpack the brand strength for those of us that don't know what you mean when you say brand strength.
Okay, so for instance, when there is an event in our town of Yakima, they want our company, the Guild Gallery, to be the photographer there because we are very well known to everyone there, and we are a name on the list, if you will. And so that is important. And so the way we've been building that brand over the years is doing lots of community things. And really, when it comes to our products and stuff like that, they are all very high-end luxury. People walk into a home, they see, a canvas, they'll say, okay, that's a Guild Gallery, portrait that was created.
Oh, and it has our signature on it too.
Yeah, and so there's and our clients make sure our signature's on there. It's a
I get
status,
that piece.
right?
Yes, right.
And so when you have that brand strength and you bring them through for a complimentary session, they are well aware of what could happen from that standpoint.
Right.
And,
they're not coming into it completely blind. I mean, they walk into a gallery and they see huge canvases on the wall, so they're like,
exactly.
They know.
Right.
And so here's what's happening, and this is why I circled back to that, is because the experience is incredibly important, and you have to be mindful that if you were to just give a session away and then show up at the session location and create portraits of your clients, the odds of them, yes, just choosing 5 of those digital images that was a part of that arrangement and leaving is incredibly high.
Right.
But that's not what we do. They begin this experience and they go through, and what we do is we bring the value up so high that they, all of a sudden, they're invested in this process. They see, man, I'm glad this was given to me. And now I have this opportunity. We haven't had family portraits in years or ever. And now I see the value of why other people have been doing this. I wouldn't normally get an opportunity to do that with them because, again, they were looking for something, free,
But maybe they weren't even conscientiously looking for it.
Yeah.
But you provided it.
Exactly. They didn't know what they wanted, but once I described the process and I described what it meant to have their portraits in their home on their wall and have that, because the way I look at that is I tell them, I say, when you have your family portrait on the wall, you're displaying your value system, your core values. They're on display. And so every day you're going to wake up and you're going to be reminded of why you do what you do for the most part.
So that's the building value piece.
Exactly.
When you're essentially teaching them.
Yes.
Right? You offer them the complimentary session, and then for lack of a better word or term, you have them. And then you have their ear, so to speak, right? You have their attention.
Exactly.
Then you can set up an appointment to go to their home. And I'm going through this in my mind, so correct me if I get it wrong. And that's where you start to build, show them the value or build the value for them, so that then they think, well, this is wonderful. I'm all excited about this. This is something that I really do want, and they're kind of in there.
Yeah. Well,
right?
there's 5 touch points,
okay.
So they come through, they do the planning meeting with us. So that's where we talk about what to wear, location, all that stuff, price conditioning.
And they come in for that.
They come in to our studio for that. They come to us. And so
which is where they're seeing everything. Sometimes maybe for the first time.
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, usually the sign up process, we've done it at our local fair and whatnot, or through our social media. So obviously our work is there, but yes, the tangible version of that, they may experience for the first time.
Right,
or
and they're not 8x12s.
No, our smallest size in my where we're, I guess, the selling room, where we're doing the in-person sales is 45 inches, and so
the largest is 147 inches.
100, a little over 12 feet.
Yeah,
so
12
we have
foot
a 12
canvas.
foot canvas when
Are
they
you in a
first walk in
hangar?
the lobby.
How big is your sales? Where do you put something like that?
Above the stairs.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Or anywhere. So here's the thing. I mean, when you have a 22-foot wall and you have 22-foot ceilings or 20-foot ceilings or whatever, sometimes the appropriate size for impact is 12 feet. I mean, go to any museum.
Sure.
And all of a sudden that looks pretty small.
Right.
Because those painters were creating it.
But do you have something like that in your studio?
Yeah, we have a 147-inch canvas.
For reference.
I'll show you a picture of it later.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, and it's a stretched canvas. So
is it one of those things where the 12-foot canvas makes it easier to sell the 10-foot canvas?
Well, it's a truism. People will always buy what they see, and so that's why you will not see anything that even resembles the shape of an 8x10.
Right.
Because ultimately, that's just not going to have the impact.
Right.
That's a part of the experience of our portrait experience.
Right, and you're teaching them that the value isn't there in an 8x10, of course, or an 8x12.
It can be for some things, but not for when they walk into a room and have their eye catch their family portrait that they created 10 years ago.
Right.
It needs to have its space,
okay,
and it needs to have its presence in the space, and so that's where appropriate sizing comes in.
So then the other touch point is you go to their place.
Exactly, because then, so the whole thing is their past experience may have just been with digital images. We may have done a session and we just get digital images and then it's up to us. Sure. Right? Well, now this whole experience is we are literally planning a decor item in their home. And so we go to their home afterwards. We talk about impact points that the architect put in. when they were building the home. Like, where does your eye go? Where's the focal point in this space?
Nice.
You know, like, so we play off, you know, the feng shui, if you will, of the room.
Right.
And we talk about color palettes. So when we finally get to the actual session, I'm photographing for a specific place. I'm creating a portrait for above their mantle or in, you know, their living room.
Well, and don't you think psychologically, this just came to me that you brought up the architect, and don't you think psychologically you're putting yourselves on par right away with the architect and the designer and the contractor and like all of these people that they've worked with and that they're familiar with, and then all of a sudden you're with them. In their minds.
Yeah, they didn't just hire a photographer. They hired like someone to change their space, and so we kind of become like the expert to them.
Or like the photographer they thought they hired isn't like this isn't like photographer in my mind as I thought it was. Like photographer means so much more when they're working with you guys.
And then if they ever were to switch and go to somebody else, I don't think that it wouldn't be the same experience.
Not at all. Right.
Yeah. Well, so that's how we're able to get away with these free sessions.
Because you're really distancing yourself from anybody else.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and here's the thing. When we go to their home and we're planning that, you know, where the portraits are going, the value meter just goes up so far. Because here's what they're thinking in their head. And I tell them it takes 5 to 10 minutes for me to walk around your home. I even photograph the wall, so we use that later on. Yeah. You know, so after we create the portraits, they can see it on their wall, so there's no guessing. But when I'm walking around the home and I'm talking about where everything is going, in their minds, they're thinking, man, when my mom comes over or when my best friends come over, like they thought like you mentioned, they thought they hired a photographer, but now they have an interior designer. Yeah. They're going to look like they have their crap together, you know, is what they're thinking. And all of a sudden they get excited. Yeah. And so here, this complimentary session, all this value is built in, and I have not even created one portrait. Right. Not even one. Right. And then we, of course, get to the session, and it's an experience. Right. You know, we're not keeping them in one spot. We're moving. We're getting those real expressions, that real storytelling aspect of it, while also being strategic to create the ones that will be in that space. Right, in those specific spaces that you've already gone over with them. The other piece that I like about it psychologically is when you do put yourself on par with the architect and the contractor and the designer and the builder. Those types of people, you don't think to yourself, oh, I'm going to spend $300 for this, or I'm going to spend this is going to be $800. It's more like 4 figures and 5 figures. You know, this is going to cost me $8,500 for an architect to maybe do this or the other thing. Or you don't have conversations in the 3 digits with contractors very often. It's usually in the 4 and 5 digits. Exactly. So and I just mean even subconsciously. Yeah. Oh, and the same thing with furniture. All of a sudden, we shift from a picture on the wall to a decor item in their home. Right. Honestly, so here's the thing. They may have just spent $10,000 on a beautiful custom couch or something like that. Right. We're talking about, like, if the house was burning down, the most important decor item in their home. Right. That's going to be more than $10,000 in some instances. Yeah, you're going to take the art out before you try to get that couch out too. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So then the session, the experience of the session is another touch point, and then I'm assuming that the sale. Yeah. So so we get all the way to second to the last touch point, which is, as you mentioned, the reveal. And the reveal. Oh my goodness. So here we go. So
they don't see their images before they come in.
They don't see them. Yeah. So they see them for the first time in my studio, and that's at that same meeting is when they make that investment. And after they go through, and we have X amount of images, in a slideshow format, and after everyone's wiped all their tears because it was so beautiful, hopefully, but now all of a sudden we transition right into the pictures I took of their walls and me showing them what that portrait looks like in that space.
So you do some work on spec. Yeah, beforehand.
Exactly. So it's very much so if you were to rewind back, because here's the thing is we inherited photography from the painters. And so this is kind of turned into a commissioned experience. They've commissioned me to create something in their home. And and that's really what that meeting's about, is finalizing what I was commissioned for. And so here's where, when Amy mentioned the 100% of the people,
I'm right about that.
Yeah, you are.
Oh,
you are.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But she mentioned, 100% of the people have invested after their complimentary session or free session. And the reason for that is I tell them multiple times, and this is important. This isn't a bait and switch. I tell them that, I explain it, and I say, but if anything is truly a good fit for what it is that we're doing here, we can walk down that road. That's up to you. And so I give them lots of exits
Before the session, before we've got their
every
images.
single step of the way. And I think that's important because when someone may be hearing this and be like, oh boy, they got into one of the,
Bait and switch situation.
I hate to use, any industry, but I can think of some like timeshare instances.
Well, no, that's right.
Where you're like, you can't get out,
Right.
and
you feel trapped.
Yeah, you feel trapped, and that is not the experience at all. That is not at all. And so I give them lots of exit ramps.
Well, you don't want your client, especially in a situation like that, to experience sticker shock either at the fifth touch point.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So he talks about prices at the second
so at the
meeting.
planning meeting.
Yeah, the planning meeting.
Is I condition them pricing wise.
Right.
And I run the full spectrum from what I talk to them about is from something that's around $1,500 up to $17,000. So I mean they know the spectrum
Right away.
Right out of the gate during the planning meeting. So before the session even takes place, they could technically just be like, we're not
Even hearing those numbers, I don't think I'm interested.
Yeah. And so they have that.
But it doesn't happen very often, is what I'm hearing you say.
It hasn't happened yet that they have exited the experience.
And isn't that something?
Well, it just.
I'm asking for myself.
Yeah, here's the thing: is my goal is to meet each person where they're at, and so if they're at a place where they can't afford, it's just not in the budget to do anything.
Sure.
Then that would be, that would obviously take us away from that 100%. But I'm okay with that,
right?
Because like that's where they're at. But for those that
I get all that, I'm just struck by the fact that hasn't occurred.
It hasn't yet.
That's awesome.
I'm sure it will, at some point. But again, these are people that we're kind of hand selecting in a sense.
Right. Again, not the parade tossing them out.
And we've been around in our same town for 12 years, so people talk. They know we're not cheap. They see us on our website that we're all about wall art and albums, so...
It's not a surprise initially
not a complete surprise.
either.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll hit on the last. So during the reveal, we do the investment. They go through and they finalize what it is that they want. Again, giving them lots of opportunities to say no, thank you.
Yeah.
And typically they invest. Now what's interesting with this to bring up is that this isn't a one and done for me. This isn't like I'm going to try and squeeze them for all I can. So this is where my heart is that I feel strongly I love to create the ideal client versus always trying to find the ideal client. And so once they've gone through this experience, if they can only invest, I don't know, $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever,
or even less sometimes,
or even less than that, or some of them really do have it in their ability, and they're at to be at 4, 5, 6, 7,000. That's fine too. But ultimately, once we've established that main piece, I'm super low pressure if they want to do anything else. And the reason for that is because now I've created the ideal. They know the experience where before they hadn't experienced it. They know what we get. They're gonna, which the last touch point is of course displaying in their home.
Right.
And so through this process, of course, we are getting revenue, which is important, which is why the free.
Yeah.
Now the free
it's
makes
like
more
what's
sense.
happening now. It makes more
Right.
sense.
Sure.
But also, these are families that have a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old. And so in 2 to 5 years or 2 to 4 years, I'm going to be creating more portraits for them.
Right.
And over the lifetime, in my lifetime with their family, that's where my perspective is. That's where my heart is saying, hey, there's an experience here that can mean a lot, and I'm now the family artist.
So it's a long-term investment, really,
Absolutely.
for both sides.
Absolutely.
Fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So that last touch point is going to be once the portraits have been created, I display it in their home. And this is kind of the grand reveal, right? And so I go and I I display.
You
all,
do it.
I hang them all.
Oh boy, that's
He used to work in maintenance at a retirement
Yes.
community, hanging pictures for residents
the
all day.
picture hanging guy
So he's
for-
got a lot of experience
for
doing
all
that.
the elderly moving into their new apartments.
so
And
you have experience.
Yes,
in that realm,
I've,
too.
So it's
I've
perfect.
hung thousands and thousands.
Oh my gosh.
Usually fairly small, but also some bigger guys. But once it's up on the wall and you see, the tears and excitement and how it really does impact the room, exactly how we discussed previously in the experience, they get it. They're on board.
How much would you say during the process is really the occurrence of, it was the Steve Jobs type of thing, is that sometimes we tell the customers what it is that they want, or we show them what it is that is capable of occurring because they don't even know.
Right.
Like his whole thing, and some people call it arrogance, whatever, but I think he hit the nail on the head in a lot of ways, is like, we're going to tell you what you want, right? Because you don't even know what's possible.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve said it pretty bluntly too.
Well, he was a blunt dude.
Yes.
But and I know you don't come across that way, of course, certainly on the client side, but how much of that is a piece of what's going into what it is that you're doing?
It's a huge piece. And that's where I think that when digital kind of really got mainstream and the accessibility of taking pictures expanded, and now you look at today's day and age where there are people that are okay taking their family portrait on the iPhone and using that for their Christmas card and all those things. They just haven't experienced the other side that everyone had been experiencing for decades.
Right.
And so this is my way, excuse me, of giving them that opportunity and saying there's an experience outside of your sister or cousin or
Right.
whoever that's taking this quick picture to go through an experience to have value
Right.
on your wall, to have a decor item, but really to have your core values on display.
So you're doing a lot of the front. Are you guys both photographers? Mm-hmm. So you're both shooting.
I mean, Tavis does mostly everything. I've got 2 little kids at home, so I'm mainly with him. But
Oh,
yeah,
right. You're
Yeah.
doing the most important work.
Yes, she
yeah.
is.
I'll photograph more later in life. So
Well, sure, but no, that's a big deal. So how old are your children?
our kids are 3 and 5.
Okay.
So I'll work in the office in the morning from like 5 to 9 a.m. And then Lincoln goes to preschool. So then we switch spots, and then I'm with the kids all day and Tavis works. And then weddings on the weekends occasionally, but babysitting and all that, it's easier just for me to stay with them.
But you really focus on the children right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
But in essence, though, you guys are partners in this.
Oh, yeah.
This is your business, and
Mm-hmm.
so give me the proverbial what it's like to work with your spouse too, because I always like to hear people's perspective on that. You start, Amy.
Go for it, Amy.
You start.
Oh man, where do I even start? It's really fun at times. We get to go to conferences together and work together and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also really hard. We're about to go to bed and we're still talking about business, and it's stressful and, things like that. So it has its ups and downs. I don't think I would trade it. I still really like it. I think we're really blessed to be able to do what we do. I don't think it's for everybody, because we really had to practice, like we kind of were talking about earlier, like getting along in public and at weddings when we have a disagreement. You just got to learn to be quiet and walk away and deal with it later.
Getting along in public.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true,
so true.
Yeah.
because like at a wedding, everybody's watching you and you have to act like professional and happy. So
That's the goal.
yeah, but I mean, we've been doing weddings together for 12 years or whatever. So we've learned a lot.
So this has been a while anyway.
Yeah.
Right. You're not brand new at this by any means.
No.
What's it like working with your wife?
Yeah, I love it. I really do. It's so interesting because when you look at and think of your own relationships, the closest ones, if you're married, but I mean, even the people around you, if you're not, you love them, but also with what we're doing, we're choosing to be leaders in our company, in our community, in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned early on that this notion of balance truly will never exist. And so with that being said, being really intentional with being present And that for us is what brings a lot of joy. Is so when I'm with Amy, my goal is to be as present as possible because I can't be anywhere else in that moment. And I think that mentality has helped.
You make it sound like we live in chaos. I mean, we do have some sort of balance. You know, we're very active, like you said, in our community and our church and everything.
Oh, yeah.
But so we have some balance, but it's like, you know, there's never a perfect science for it. We can't just leave at 5 and leave work at the door. Like
Exactly.
it's going to be a little flexible.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just, it's like the book, Leaders Eat Last. You have to recognize what role you're in and also look at, okay, the relationships that are a priority to you, you have to work twice as hard at sometimes because of that.
So you're able to accomplish a lot of what you do because you have each other.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're doing the important stuff with your kids while Tavis is out gallivanting around.
Yeah. Throwing out sessions like a carnival.
Giving stuff away like a crazy person.
But in all seriousness, you're watching the children and you're out making it happen, right?
Yeah.
So what is your advice for somebody that doesn't have another to do that?
Right.
She has the children.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have a Tavis to bring home the bacon and to make it happen. What is it that she can do to take what it is that you guys do and incorporate it in a way that's feasible? Maybe you've never thought about that, but a lot of people listening might be in that boat, and they might think to themselves, "Well, that's great for them."
Yeah.
And I get it.
Yeah. So one thing I do when I'm coaching photographers that are in that position,
Right.
that single mom even sometimes with all that, or maybe the husband does have his own career and but they rely on the income from the photography side of things, is you really have to have clear vision and you have to set your goals and say, hey, where do I want to be first of all, because ultimately trying to arrange, having someone else come in and help and all that stuff is not going to be helpful if you don't know where you truly want to be in the next 3, 5, or 10 years.
Right.
And then what I like to do is imagine a piece of paper on the left side, write all the things that you love to do. It lights you up. You may even consider it an unfair advantage in your area, in your market, because you're so good at some of these things and you love it. It fills your cup, right? On the other side of the paper, what are all the tasks that maybe you dread? Maybe you even resent,
right?
And you're just like, I just really don't want to do it.
That's a good word.
I don't want to do it. Yeah, because and what happens is we begin to resent our everything at a point.
That gets projected.
It's a poison, and it starts to affect everything. And so on that right side of the paper, write all those things that you don't enjoy. It doesn't fill your cup. It empties the cup, if you will. And as quickly as possible, try and find people that's their cup filling activity. And so outsourcing, looking at looking at different vendors in the industry, and editing and whatever it is, or even if it's someone to do your books or whatever, because people think, well, I can't afford to have someone edit for me. I can't afford to have. In some cases, you can't afford not to if you end up resenting everything that
you don't want to put yourself into a position where you're paying for childcare and then you're essentially working so that your profit can go to pay somebody to watch your children, so that you don't have anything left over, and then essentially you didn't see your kids and you paid somebody else to watch them, and you did all this work to make that happen,
right?
And nothing else.
And that's the difference. Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
Well, I just want to say too, as a mom,
yes,
so I was just thinking, if Tavis weren't in the picture for some reason, I would just recommend to other moms that it seems like a statement to work while they're sleeping, but it takes a lot of discipline to do that. Yeah. But I mean, like the kids sleep longer than I do, so just getting up early and getting those things done first thing in the morning.
Well, which is what you already do anyway.
Well, yeah, is what I do, but just so I don't have to put them in daycare the rest of the day.
Right.
But it's a discipline. I don't like getting up early every day, but I do it for the payoff. So because I have the clear vision of what is most important to those children, being home with them. So I think sometimes people try and have it all like, well, I want to watch my shows at night and sleep until the kids do or whatever, which I've been in that spot.
Right. Who doesn't like their shows?
I know. But you just have to pick like what's most important and go from there. But I think if you haven't come to terms with that clear vision, then you're going to have a harder time making those decisions. But I think it can be done if people aren't husband and wife team, but it just takes hard work and discipline.
Well, and it's the difference between working in your business and working on your business. There is a very you need to spend time working on your business. If not, then you are just basically an employee for yourself.
And putting out fires.
You might find that you just tread water for the last 10 years. You go a decade
Or more.
without working on your business, and then just realize, I didn't really get to where I wanted to go at all.
Right. And that's where I was getting at with, give away the stuff to someone that's what they love. And then what you'll find is with that little bit of extra time, you'll be able to 10 times what it's costing you to outsource that, because now you're able to double down on what you're passionate, what you're good at, what your unfair advantage is.
Right. Where do people go to find you guys online, and where are your sites, and what are the things you're involved in right now for people?
So we own a luxury canvas company, so they can find us at Guild Canvas on Facebook and Instagram. And also our coaching business is Tribe of Five, so tribeof5.com. But online on Facebook, we have the Guild Canvas Club, where we like to interact with people in the Guild, and just, we do some Facebook Lives in there and do lots of education and fun stuff. So people want to find us on there.
Yeah, and we talk about this stuff all the time in the Guild Canvas Club. People think, it's just for people that are using Guild Canvas. That's not necessarily true. I mean, we're also practitioners in the industry, and we're out there doing it.
You're actually doing it, yeah.
And as we have revelations, and because we are not done learning. Oh my goodness! And as we learn, as we fail, we hop on and we share that, and it's a wonderful group of people, wonderful group of professionals in that group, and so if you guys want to come hang out with us, hop on there, request to join, and we'll get you plugged in.
And what's your website just for your portrait business?
So we have two brands.
Yeah. Well, our family brand we've been talking about today is theguildgallery.com.
And then our wedding brand is Memory Montage Photography.
Oh, okay. Thank you guys for doing this.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
A lot of information in a short amount of time.
But it was fun.
See, people can listen to it at half speed just as well as they can listen to it at double speed, right?
Right.
Take your notes. Thanks again, guys.